What's going on, y'all? This is Sheldon Ferguson. I play guitar on Yosemite by Travis Scott. I've also recorded guitars and co-produced records for Lil Baby, NBA YoungBoy, YF and Lucci, Chris Brown, Justin Bieber, a bunch of others. This song is definitely special to me because it's one of my first, like major hits. I like it because it kind of takes me back to a lot of the like classic rock and classic R&B records that I kind of came up on. I always wanted to have like a really like signature guitar riff. And I think I finally really got my first one with this record. And I came up listening to a lot of like Guns N' Roses and Aerosmith, Led Zeppelin, the R&B side like Isley Brothers, Tony, all that kind of stuff. The record was really influenced by several things. At the time, I was really on this whole like country wave. I really like country music, and I've been finding ways to kind of sneak that into like my pop records and my hip hop records. Naturally, it was kind of on that sort of vibe. The process of creating the record was interesting. The night that we recorded it, I actually was in the studio with the Hit Cartel, with June James. We were recording with Rich Homie Quan that night. He was actually there in the studio with us. So we were really kind of zeroing in on him, Travis wasn't even like, in the picture yet. So I recorded my guitar part here in Atlanta at a studio called Music Box. June cooked up the drums in Houston, and of course Turbo got on after that, and Travis and Gunna did their vocals over in Hawaii. When I heard the record later, it was kind of cool seeing all the different pieces come together, considering that we kind of pieced together the record together in different cities and stuff, and it was cool just kind of seeing the different vibes kind of like that kind of went into the record. And at the time, me and June, we've been working together for like a year, so our catalog was really extensive. In my mind, actually, I thought about, like what beat it might have been or whatever. So I had certain ones that were like my favorites or whatever. I looked at, the beat that they had chosen, and I was like, oh, really, that one? I don't know what it was. Like, it didn't really hit me at first as being like, the one that was gonna, take off. But shows how much I know. So I recorded this guitar on my Fender Tele. It's actually it's a 1972 reissue. I really love this guitar. It's got that like Tele twang to it, but it's strangely dark, so it kind of has its own sort of vibe to it. So actually, it was a graduation gift from my grandparents, so it has a lot of sentimental value to it. It really worked for the Yosemite record well because of just like the character of the guitar. I appreciate guitars that have a lot of character to them. I like stuff that's like rugged, and I've always kind of stuck with Fender for that reason. I don't like instruments that sound too polished. It's got that perfect in between. So Yosemite is 3 basic chords. You got C sharp 11, add 9, D major 11, and E minor. That first chord is interesting. It's the one that's kind of been thrown at everybody. Naturally, you kind of expect like a regular C add 9, but I added this F sharp, which is the sharp 11 from C. I added it for the dissonance. I think it just makes it a little bit more interesting. So what I'm kind of doing is what's called creating chord melodies. I really like doing that because it makes the chords a lot more interesting. I could have just as easily done something like, but when you add the melodies in between, it just makes it a lot more listenable, Anyway, I kind of got this whole method from listening to a lot of Nile Rodgers. He's one of my favorite guitar players, countless classic records. He's always talking about, instead of just playing straight chord changes, adding melodies in between them to make it, something that the listener can kind of grab hold to. And I think that's what makes the riff so catchy, is the melodies that I put between the chords. My process for creating this was really simple. When I'm in the studio and I'm creating, I really like to kind of just go off of the natural, just vibes that are in the room. I'm really big on just not overthinking things. My best ideas really come when I'm just kind of in my natural state. And that's definitely how this came about. Of course, to a degree, we definitely had, our influences, like from some of the records that I mentioned earlier, some of the people that I listen to. But I really feel like that's where you get the best ideas naturally. It's crazy kind of thinking back and seeing everything come full circle now. I came from Columbia, South Carolina, it's my hometown. Moved around a little bit, I went to school in Boston. I went graduated from Berkeley. Just seeing the whole process of me going from like, playing on stage to, doing studio stuff to, the studio stuff taking off, now it's like, even from this one record, I got my first platinum record, my first Grammy nomination from the album, all that kind of stuff. And it's crazy seeing it all come full circle and really seeing stuff start to pay off. Like, when you start to see like all the late nights in the studio, paying off. People make doing music harder than it is. Is when you really follow the right guidelines, like you really can't lose, honestly. Like, there's enough opportunity out here for everybody. It's like people say, you really can't do anything that you put your mind to. And I've definitely seen that, in a very short amount of time.